All right, so I'm finally being called, or I should say answering the call to make the video where I answer the questions you guys left me about the modeling industry. Also, hi, my name's Haley. Yeah, I got the call to make this video a while ago, and then of course, fear has set in, and I've been procrastinating, belaboring, thinking about, oh, maybe I just won't do that. But you can only deny the heart so many times until it starts screaming at you to do something. So I have finally decided that today is the day, because I was waiting a long time for the right day, or when there was no fear around me talking about this kind of stuff to come. And I've kind of realized that this is what courage is. It's transcending fear, because fear is never going to go away unless it is looked at in the face. And I will be completely honest with you guys in answering these questions in right now that I am completely terrified to kind of open up about all this. But again, like I said, the heart knows, and the heart keeps telling me to share, not only for me, but for whoever's watching this. And I know that if I could even help one girl get out of self-judgment, then it would be worth it. So for that reason, I'm going to open up here. I posted a thing on Instagram, probably like, oh, my daddy's calling. Not now, Dad. Okay. Yeah, I posted a story up on Instagram a few weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, asking if you guys wanted me to open up about this, and if you did, leave me questions. And I got a lot of questions, and I just wrote them down so that I can read them. And a few people said to have courage, and that it's inside of me, and that they're sending me love. So thank you for that. I really need it. And here I am, jumping off the bridge and just gonna dive right in. So there's quite a few questions. I'll just kind of go down the line. So the first question is, was modeling always a passion of yours and that you aspire to do, or did you sort of fall into the industry? Was not a passion of mine. People all my life had recommended that I be a model. I'd gotten scouted many times, but it was nothing I aspired to do, and I did just sort of fall into it. It happened when I was in college. I got scouted 2 days in a row, and a light bulb went off in my head. Maybe I'm supposed to give this a try. And I really have always loved to travel, so basically the ultimatum on the phone, push come to shove, was I would like to travel, and if I can do that, then I will drop out of college and become a model. And then I did do all of that. I dropped out of college, traveled, and became a model. And so it definitely has its upsides too. I went to so many beautiful places in the world. But as far as passionate about modeling, not really. As a kid, I was very adventurous, and I didn't wear makeup. I didn't really have much interest in, dressing up like a little doll and looking super nice and things. I was very eclectic in my own style and didn't ever use hair tools or makeup or anything. So it was definitely very random for me. And the second question is, what does every day look like as a model? So modeling is you're technically a self-contractor, meaning you don't have a boss. So your agents technically work for you, technically, right? We always forget that in the modeling industry, but that means some days you wake up and you have a shoot, and then sometimes you don't have a shoot. And you can go months and months and months and months without getting paid if you're not working, and then you can go months and months and months working every single day, all day. So every day is completely different. Some days I'm flying to a random country. Some days I'm sitting at home doing absolutely nothing with the entire day off. Some days I'm going down the street to a local e-commerce shoot. And then other days I'm being flown to do, the cover of a magazine somewhere. So it's always very random. Every time you do get to a set, it's completely new people, completely new styles, new clothes, new vibes, what they want you to emit. So I did like that part, the adventurous part of it. You never know what the next day is going to bring. And every day at 6 p.m., 7 p.m.-ish, you get your schedule for the next day. So very much kept on my toes. But my average day at work, would look very different, and then my average day off was always filled with my passions, which are yoga, writing, reading, and talking to random people at cafes. And third question is, did you make any model friends? Are there rarely any friendships in the industry? So I modeled for about 4 and something years, and I had model friends, and I wouldn't say there's rarely any friendships in the industry. Everyone finds a friend. Now the quality of friendship, that's another question. I happened to make some very good friends that were also models, but the thing about being friends with someone in this industry is there's always this underlying unspoken energy of kind of like a jealousy or a competition aspect, a self-comparison, a judgment. And the energy of judgment runs rampant through the entire industry, friendships and not. But I remember praying often about this, with my friends that were models. There was always this weird, just like unspoken energy of I'll put it this way. Sometimes I felt like I couldn't tell my model friends when I'd booked a big job because I didn't want them to get jealous or upset or self-comparison. And so there's a very a thing that shouldn't be in a friendship is there, like a true all-encompassing friendship. So definitely strings attached, but there's definitely communion within the modeling community. And I would say there's friendships. And the last question in this section is, was it hard supporting yourself financially? So I mentioned prior that you're technically a self-contractor, meaning if you get booked every day, great. If you don't get booked, it's not your agent's fault. You just don't make any money. So, it is a big financial gamble in the sense that if you don't work for months, you are not making an income. I luckily started to collect clients very fast when I started modeling. So I was able to support myself financially very well, living in New York City, traveling, living in a few various countries. And I was very lucky in that regard because there's so many beautiful girls that don't get booked. And, it's kind of luck of the draw, I would say, because I remember walking into rooms where there's like 100 other girls with brown hair and green eyes. And at the end of the day, why did they choose me? Or why did they choose the girl next to me or whatever? And I kind of boiled modeling down to a science because there's no lack of physical beauty in this industry. That's all it is. So I started to pick up very quickly the only thing that's going to differentiate me is my personality. So rather than completely dulling my personality and allowing the industry to completely take away every aspect of myself, I really held on to few parts of myself. Most of myself I let go, right? And which we'll get into later in the conditioning aspect of things. But I really was able to financially support myself, I believe, because I still kept some of my true nature of my personality, which really, I think, whether people know it or not, they're attracted to energy more than looks. Okay, I divided these into sections. So that was kind of the more just getting warmed up, not scary questions sections. Now we're gonna kind of get into the parts that I'll just say are the reason I have not made this video sooner. Okay, so what are some misconceptions about modeling that negatively affected you firsthand? So they're not misconceptions, first off. I think this person was trying to say what are some of the negative things in modeling that affected you. Well, where do I start? And again, I just want to say before I get into this section, I am sharing all of this not to be a victim. I am not sharing all of this to blame the industry or, cry over spilled milk. I have done a lot of healing myself. Again, the healing journey never ends, not saying I'm done healing either, but I'm sharing this in hopes that whoever's watching this, whether you're a model or not, a young girl struggling with image issues or not, that you can derive something from my experience. I've sat a long time contemplating, meditating, journaling, praying about all of this kind of trauma I collected, and so that I could derive wisdom to share. So I just want to say, I'm going to answer this question, but it's not because I'm complaining. It's not because I even regret it. I actually don't regret anything. That entire modeling experience made me who I am today and helped me find the depths of myself. So I am thankful. I just want to say that first and foremost. And I'm answering these questions so that, again, I can shine a light for whoever's watching. So some negative things about modeling that have affected me firsthand were the overall judgmental energy in the industry. Because, and by that I mean kind of the pressure put onto myself to be a certain way. And I had heard about, this, especially when I first got scouted. My mom was like, this is not healthy. Like, I've heard rumors about the industry. And so I was aware in the sense that I'd heard it, but I didn't really understand like just how much pressure is put on you to be a certain way. And it did negatively affect me firsthand to hear things like, oh, you need to lose weight, you need to lose more weight, you need to lose more weight, you need to be this size, you need to be, your hairline's low like this, oh, don't, stop being tan. I'm sorry, I'm ethnic. It's like, so I just remember hiding out from the sun and like not eating a lot of the time. And I mean, you think about it, and these things negatively affected me firsthand in the sense that I stopped living just so I could model. And that age-old quote, am I working to live or am I living to work? And at a certain point in time, it dawned on me that I wasn't living my life. I was hiding from the sun. I wasn't eating. I wasn't able to be social because I was scared of food. So, a lot of the things in that mainly that pressure to be a certain way, a certain size, very firsthand negatively affected me. What was your turning point to pursue something else? So this is a layered question. I think it would be nice if my hero's journey was as simple as, go up the mountain, struggle, one peak moment, and then your hands free on the way down. For me, it was very like sparks of certain intuitions that I need to do something else, but then retracting in fear. I retracted in fear so many times. Again, another reason I'm making this video is so that hopefully if you're watching this and you're a struggling model, this can be your wake-up sign to not retract in fear. If you know deep down you're supposed to pursue something else, if you know deep down that judging yourself is wrong, then wake up. I wish, and again, not a regret, but I do wish that someone had shaken me violently and said, wake up. This is not what life's about. So I'll go over the various turning points where it came into my vision to pursue something else. So let's see. The first time was 2022 in June. I had a major spiritual awakening. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. Like a year prior, I hit my head really hard and went to somewhere else. And then, anyways, ever since that moment, it kind of, my soul woke up and it kept knocking on my chest like, this is not what life's about. I ignored the knock, I ignored it. 21 becomes 22. Mid-2022, this knock is so loud, I can't ignore it. I'm waking up and I'm just violently anxious, violently depressed, dying inside and having to still go to shoots, still go to work and like act like everything's fine and like, I look great on Instagram, like all this bullshit. And it kind of just got to the point where I snapped and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I remember within saying that and really truly meaning it on a subconscious body mind level, I found a way to put my apartment up and I decided that I was going to become a nomad minimalist and run away from New York City and the industry secretly. I would like sneak away. That was my plan. And that was my first major, like, I need to pursue something else. This is wrong. This is not what life's about. This is bullshit, kind of thing. And, from the outside, everything looked perfect. I had a gorgeous apartment in West Village. I was working all the time. It was like probably the peak of my career. Looking back, I was making so much money. I had all these friends. We all were cute. We were going out to drinks and dinner. We get invited to cool parties, dress up nice. Like everything looked fabulous from the outside, but on the inside I was dying. And so I just snapped and I said, I'm leaving. And so I sold everything I owned and my apartment got taken mid-lease. And my plan was kind of no plan. I went on a vacation with my girlfriends, and then they all ended up coming back to New York City, and I was just gonna nomad around, and I don't really know what I was gonna do. It was just like bop around. And in that time frame too, I also tried to drop my main agency at the time, because I'd gotten a reading from someone saying that basically it's dangerous and you need to get out. And I tried to drop my agency at the time, and basically I got persuaded back into not doing that. So that's fine. I left New York City. I left modeling at the moment. I still had my agency, but I was like, I just need like a break. And, push comes to shove. Eventually I get to Barcelona in my travels, and I was like, my agent's like, okay, start working here. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And at this point in time, what does it really take to push someone to completely trust God, completely break the ego? It takes certainty, and I didn't really have that. I was very broken. It was also the peak of my eating disorder, the peak of my insecurity, the peak of my loneliness and brokenness, really. And so what did I do? I ran back to the comfort zone of modeling, the comfort zone of my agent, at the time, one of my only kind of friends. And so, yeah, next thing I know, I'm full-time modeling in Barcelona. A few months go by, I get even more depressed, even more ill. At the time, I was not well. I was really, really not well. I was waking and baking, not eating, hardly at all. And at this time too, it was a little confusing because I wasn't working as much as I had been in New York City. And I just remember crying one day on the phone, and being so confused, and finally decided to go back to New York, because I was like, at least I was working there. If I'm going to be violently ill and depressed, I might as well be making money while doing it. So I decided to go back to New York and figure my shit out. And I ended up sleeping on my friend's couch in her bedroom actually, for 2 months. And in those 2 months, I almost moved back to Hawaii. I almost went to Germany. Like, I almost did all these things, but I was ended up getting persuaded to stay in New York by my friends. And again, ultimately my decision, right? I'm not blaming anyone for the decisions I make. Full ownership on those. But yeah, there was lots of conversations around, am I going to stay? Am I going to leave? I can't find an apartment. Things don't seem to be working out. I'm not making money anymore, yada, yada, yada. And I ended up getting a new apartment in New York. Another beautiful apartment from the outside. Everything looks gorgeous. More clothes, more shoes, more bullshit. Start working again. Back to being, just the rat race. Back to the rat race. And so that was like the first major turning point to pursue something else. But I retracted in fear and went right back to where I came from, New York City, modeling industry. So, okay, I do that for a bit. It's 2022 into 2023, still living in New York. 2023 of January, another major turning point, another major wake-up call to pursue something else. I had a shoot for the brand Cult Gaia in, I want to say it was February, it might have been January of 2023, and I got hypothermia on the shoot, very ill shooting conditions. It was absolutely wild. And basically, this is my theory. But my theory is, I remember on the airport ride home, defrosting literally still. And when I got home, I realized I had hypothermia. I was severely traumatized from that shoot, because I was literally frozen from the outside in. I mean, my inside had been frozen for God knows how long at this point. But I have this theory that I got cold shock therapy during that shoot. So Cold Gaia shoot, actually, oddly thankful for that, because it kind of woke me up. Nonetheless, I was sick in bed a few days, and I had all these revelations as I'm kind of coming in and out of that daze you get when you're sick. And it's cool, because now I kind of understand, when you're in that dazed state, your brainwaves are quite literally in a more perceptible state to receive downloads or to receive prayer and connection with divine, God, energy, whatever you want to call that thing inside you and all around you, right? It's easier to connect because your ego's out of the way. And so I was getting all these crazy, kind of download dreams and messages, and as I'm sick in bed recovering from hypothermia. And it was another major wake-up call. But I was like, I'm gonna ignore that. Like, I can't deal with that right now. No, I'm very comfortable being unconscious and sick and making money again in New York City, and I'm just gonna ignore that. So I did. And that was like a boom boom, because right after that, March of 2023, my friend had kind of like lightly suggested it, but we finally had like a proper conversation, and she brought to my attention that I had an eating disorder. And it was the friend I had stayed with for a few months back when I was trying to look for an apartment when I came back from Barcelona. And she could tell I had an eating disorder because I stayed at her place for 2 months and she was observing my patterns. And so she pointed it out to me, and I kind of just denied it for so long. And then finally in like March or April, I decided to get a holistic doctor, because on the way to her house one day I saw a sign for a naturopath. And my excuse, one of my major excuses for like not getting help for a long time was, oh, I don't believe in Western medicine, which is true. I personally, it doesn't sit well with me for my body. Not to say it's not good for you or anything, right? To each their own. No judgment. I just want to say that. But for me personally, I was always very averted to Western medicine. And so for the longest time, my excuse for being sick was, oh, like, I just don't like Western medicine. But then I remember I saw that Eastern medicine place, and I thought, I'll just walk in. So I did. I got a pamphlet, and I walked in. I made an appointment. I actually thought to myself, I'll cancel this appointment later, and I'll just show my friend, that I went to get her off my back, kind of thing. And I ended up keeping the appointment. It ended up being such a big blessing. That was really, the start of some of me addressing my issues. So my one friend was a super, super big catalyst for my healing. And bringing to my awareness, again, this turning point to pursue something else. At the time, again, I didn't think I was going to pursue something else, but trying to pursue health, I'll say that. So, sorry, there's so many, just like, I didn't know how to answer this question in this small way, so I'm still on this question. Turning point to pursue something else. So that was April of 2023. And then, oh gosh, I did it again. In like May or June, I don't remember what month of 2023, same thing happens. I lose my mind. I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta get out of this industry. I've gotta get out. Because at this point, I'm like trying to kind of be healthy, but also I still am falling into these old patterns of not eating enough and all this crazy stuff. So I did the same exact thing. Got rid of my apartment, sold everything I own, and went to Italy with some girl I met at a cafe. I say this now and it's like, bro, you had to do it again. But I did. It's a very clear pattern to me now. So anyways, trying to pursue something else, trying to get out, trying to run away. One of my biggest lessons is when you see your issues, you can't run away from them. The only way out is through. So I realize now running away from New York was never the answer, but at the time it was the only move I had in my pocket. So whatever. I did a whole nother little nomad phase, and then I ended up in LA, took a modeling job. Next thing I know, I'm living in LA full-time modeling, but again, not making as much money. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then at a certain point, that was like one of the darker points in my time, because now I'm really thinking, no, I do want to be healthy, but I'm getting this pressure from my agent and from my agencies to, be a certain way, look a certain size. Like, you're not working because you're not a certain size. Now, again, I look back and I realize, no, Haley, when you lived in Barcelona, you were this little thin and you weren't working. There's like this chasm of, I think they call it dark night of the soul, where things look like they're falling apart in order to disintegrate and come together. So it's happening again, but this time on the physical, I'm starting to look healthier, in my agent's terms, less workable. I looked a normal size, I'll put it that way. And so I got pressured, and then next thing I know, I moved back to New York fucking city in that same, I moved in, I went on a trip in the end of December, moved back January 2024, January 7th, to do it all over again, baby. Yeah, I'm gonna be a model, go back to being super thin, super ill, super fucked up. It was just like too much. Okay. the question is, what was your turning point to pursue something else? So I get back to my apartment, January 2024, and that girl I went to Italy with a year prior calls me and is like, oh, there's a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat and we should go. And I remember the day she said that, I knew in my soul, okay, this is the proper turning point. After this, there's no going back. Well, it was 25 when I said that on the timer. So yeah, I would say that's the proper hero's journey turning point, was end of February 2024 when I went on this retreat, and it changed my life completely. Next question. Sorry that was so long. What were some of your long-term reasons for leaving modeling and recovering? So I've kind of gone over this lightly, right, throughout this whole story I just told you. Long-term reasons for leaving modeling are, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. And I just want to say also, it's been brought to my attention that everything is empty of nature. What do I mean by that? It's a Buddhist concept I'm referencing. For instance, an apple is empty of nature, meaning some people like apples and some people don't. It's about the energy a person projects onto the apple that gives it its essence. And so, same with modeling. Modeling in and of itself is not bad or evil or wrong, but the energy I was coming at it with, because of the programming I somehow found myself in, was giving it a very, very negative charge. So my long-term reasons for leaving is that I personally could not find a way to be in the industry and be authentic. I just couldn't. And when I actually didn't quit, I remember not saying, I'm not going to quit, I'm not going to leave New York City, I'm not going to leave modeling, I'm not going to leave all these things because I want to prove it to the industry that, I can be myself in it, fully myself. And by that I mean have my long hair, be my tan self, have a fucking, 26-inch waist if I want to, because that's what I naturally sit at, And I really wanted to kind of transcend that. But sometimes God has a different plan. So my long-term reason for leaving modeling was because I found that when I was authentic in the industry, I wasn't making any money. And, at a certain point, you don't work for a few months in a row and you're like, I should probably do something else with my life. So that was the main reason. And then also I realized the more I shed my ego and the more I stepped away from wanting the glitz and the glamour and to be on the billboards and have all the nice purses and have everyone think I looked awesome and all this bullshit, I just realized I don't actually want to be a model. Oh yeah, remember pre-modeling when all you wanted to do was hike barefoot and roll in dirt, Haley? Remember when you never knew what makeup was? Remember when you used to just wear this because it was comfy? Yeah, I started to wake up to who I really was and realize that this isn't me. This is just a mask I put on for the past 4 years, and while I was wearing this mask, I forgot who I really was. So my long-term reason for leaving modeling is it's not me. It's not who I want to be. And again, if you watching this are a model and you want to be a model, good for you. It's empty of a nature. I'm really reiterating this, that it's not bad if that's your calling or that's your passion. For me, I decided it wasn't anymore. And I kind of woke up and realized I'd adopted someone else's dream and made it mine. My agent who mentored me for so long used to be a model, and I now realize I kind of was being programmed to think that this was my dream, that this was my passion. And looking back now, I realize no, I accidentally accepted someone else's dream to be my own. And that was just never going to work because I'm not them, right? I'm my own person. So it's my long-term reason for leaving. And my long-term reason for recovering is because, God damn it, health is wealth. Health is wealth. I was rich in New York City. I was monetarily rich. I was so empty inside, and I didn't feel any happiness. And so, go figure, the age-old cliche is true, that health is wealth. And so my long-term reason for recovering is because I woke up one day, many times, as we've talked about, retraction fear many times, but I kept waking up to that inner knowing of I want true wealth. I want health. And again, realistically for me, I just, I started to prioritize my health and my recovery over monetary wealth and sickness. And another clear point I want to make here is you can most 100%, 1000% be physically healthy and monetarily wealthy. Those two are not mutually exclusive, and I'm going to figure that out in my next chapter in life because, yeah, you can't not have one if you have the other. But all I know is in the modeling industry, I seem to only be getting the monetary wealth and not the physical health. And I want it all. So that's why I left. Was it extremely stressful and making you feel exhausted after some jobs? Well, I already told you about how I got hypothermia on a shoot. So that's pretty physically draining, emotionally draining. Day to day though, honestly, yeah. I feel like it's a job that people think, oh, it's probably so like glamorous and fun. It's actually pretty hard. I mean, if you think about it, someone's touching your face with makeup 24/7 on set, touching your eyes. People are dressing you, buttoning things up, taking your clothes off. You have to be on a set, and realistically on the set, the talent, which is the model, is kind of the center of the set, right? Everyone's like, oh, does she look good? Is this right? Is the foot, like everything's about you kind of. And so it is a very like energetically exhausting job, I found, just because you have to be on 24/7. And if you're not on, then you set the tone for the set. And so I would find the days where I show up super present and aware, it's like, okay, we're gonna have a good day, it would go good. But the days where I was just like drained because I've been working 5 days in a row, you know, it was even dragging on longer. And sometimes the sets go over 8 hours. I've had 14-hour days before, traveling on planes overnight to get to a set the next day. It's definitely an exhausting job, and yeah, it's not very, very easy for sure. So major respect to the models out there watching this, because I know how it is. Ew. Okay. What was your diet and exercise routine, and how has it changed? Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep it together. I wanted to be 100% real on here because it's important. Diet, there was no there was like not a lot of eating being done, you know? Eating disorders run absolutely rampant through the entire industry. And I was always a very physical person before I got into this. So I still loved to work out. But unfortunately, my love for moving my body became this kind of, you have to, because you have to look this way and be this size and be this tone and have these abs, and oh, your arms are too big. So like it just became this like completely like ill thing. And so I would overwork out and I would undereat. And I had a very like, you know, there was a way to do it. And for those models watching, I was you, by the way, where I used to go on YouTube and search models' diet and exercise routines and like try to follow it, and oh, what's she doing? She's only eating this much. Like I was like absolutely mentally ill, mentally insane. I used to spend hours on YouTube researching like all the supermodels' diet and exercise routines and like try to mock it, try to tweak it. So I'm not gonna get into my exact diet and exercise routine because I don't want someone who's struggling with these illnesses to try and mock what I was doing to achieve the illness that I achieved, because it's not healthy. But I will just say that I had an extreme eating disorder. I would go days and days and days and days without eating. And then I think I see it now as like my soul was protecting me, because there's some girls that can do that and like quite literally become anorexic. And I got very, very thin, but there was only like a certain point where you could tell like visibly that I was anorexic. And I think it's because, you know, there would also be days and days where at one point I'd break because I'd be just so hungry and I'd eat a ton. And then again, I'd feel guilty. And then for days and days and days and days, I wouldn't eat. I had this cycle for like 3 years, and it was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting because for like 5 days, if you don't eat, the moment you eat, you can't wait to eat. And then you feel like disgusting because you're like, oh my gosh, I just put like a whole day's worth of food in my body and it hasn't eaten for 5 days, and then you feel guilty, and it's like this cycle. So for a while there was that, which I think classifies as like binge restriction cycle. And then for a while I had it where I just wouldn't eat at all, which is considered anorexia. And then I think there's orthorexia, where you measure every single thing. Like I remember taking a bite of an apple and being like, okay, that's like 5 calories, and like writing in a journal. Like I was fucking crazy. I was crazy. And so, I mean, that was my routine, if you guys are all wondering. And is it something to be mocked? No. Is it something to be praised? No. Is it something that you should be now writing down to do? No. Please, 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 to God, if you're watching this and you're struggling with something similar, please do not do this. Like, please do not do this. I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And my exercise routine, again, was just completely excessive, working out 3-4 hours a day, every day, and eating like hardly anything. Yeah, so that's a hard one for me to just talk about, because it's like a lot of girls in the industry are doing things like this and no one talks about it, and everyone acts like it's fine and normal and fun. And no, I remember going out to dinner and like everyone's like picking at the food. Like you go to these massive dinners with all these models, all they're doing is like drinking tons of alcohol and like picking at the food. Yeah, and it's not okay. It's not okay. How has it changed? How has my diet and exercise routine changed? Okay, so around that 2023 April mark, where I decided to get the holistic doctor, I remember, I walked in and I had a few health conditions at this time. I was severely anxious, chronic anxiety. It was affirmed by my blood test that I had chronic depression. My cortisol was like through the roof, stress super, super high, all my circuits blown. I had amenorrhea, which is period loss, which means I'm also infertile, can't have a baby. And sorry, I don't know if that's the proper medical term for that. I couldn't have a baby, right? Because if you don't have a period, you can't have a baby. I think that's what they call it. And then I also had the eating disorder. So I had like a whole host of things. And I mean, add on all the traumatic modeling sets I'd been on with various people. So I had a lot to deal with. And my doctor, obviously, first and foremost, was like, okay, so you need to eat and you need to stop working out, because we got to get some meat on you. And that terrified me, because at the time I was still a model. And so I had started to put on weight, because I remember for a really long time I lied to my doctor. And every time I'd go in, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not working out. Yeah, I'm eating normal. What I'd started to do, like I'd made a little bit of progress in the sense that I'd started to eat every day, like maybe 1 meal or 2 really, really small meals that I measured everything. And I would only work out once a day instead of twice. So I made progress, but I was totally like lying straight up to my doctor's face, and still was not being super, healthy. And so it gradually changed. It was not overnight. But I'll say right now that I'm fully out of it, fully healthy, now I move my body because I want to, not because I have to, or I have to look a certain way or fit into a certain size. Now I go on a run, which is something I used to love running, but when I was a model, I didn't have the energy to run. And I would do like all these crazy HIIT workouts. So now I don't do HIIT workouts. I actually don't do Pilates anymore either, just because I found, again, this is not a hit on Pilates at all. If you enjoy Pilates, carry on. But for me, it was always like the energy of a Pilates room was a lot of like, probably because I was in New York, was a lot of like models and like moms who want to like look all chic and fit. And just like the energy of the studio I went to was not something that was serving me anymore. So I stopped doing Pilates, and I've kind of transitioned now to just like walking, yoga, and sometimes if I feel so inspired to, I go on a run. But way lighter than I used to. And my diet now is very just, I eat when I want to, how I want to. And I think this is something, I'll be completely honest, I'm still figuring out, because I had a 4.5-year eating disorder. So I only really started getting better. This healing journey started when I got the doctor, but I wouldn't say I started like properly eating like a normal person until this February of 2024. So I'm still figuring it out. And right now I kind of just eat when I'm hungry, and I remind myself that food is not something that needs to be earned. It's not something that needs to be earned. And everyone needs it because it keeps the body moving. And I've really just tried to remember also when I'm eating that this is a gift from God, and it gives me energy. It gives me energy to create poetry. It gives me energy to interact with people I love, like my dad. It gives me energy to enjoy the beautiful day. And I always keep coming back to this reminder of it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. So my eating routine now is intuitive, I'll say, but no restrictions. There's no I've always been very healthy even before I was a model, so I still don't, I wasn't raised on processed food and sugar, so I don't really eat a lot of that stuff, but I never really ate a lot of that stuff growing up anyways, so I'm not out here drinking, I'm by all means not advertising, drink soda every day and, don't care about your body. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is basic guidelines. Don't overdo the sugar, obviously. Don't eat a bunch of processed crap, but other than that, there's no need for restrictions. There's no need for limits, because truly the body knows what it wants. And now that I meditate too, I feel I'm a lot more in tune with the moment. So there's no more diet, oh, this is how I eat. It's how do I eat right now? Right now. In every moment, it's a reassession. I made that up. You reassess what you'd like, what your body wants. So it's very intuitive. And intuitive, and reminding myself that it doesn't need to be earned. That's how I eat and exercise these days. Did they make you eat a strict diet? Do you feel healthier now? Eating disorder, question mark. Well, eating disorder, ding. We already went over that. Do I feel healthier now? Oh, hell yeah. And by the way, I'll just add, I feel healthier now and I look different now. Yeah. I'm not a 23-inch waist. I'm not a 34-inch hip. I don't have double A's anymore. I look completely different. I'm now sitting at my natural size, and that is something that took me a long time to come to terms with. But it's just how it is, and it feels good. It feels healthy, and it feels right. And did they make you eat a strict diet? So, does anyone make you do anything? No. So again, I just want to reiterate, I'm taking full responsibility. I allowed this. I am ultimately the one who decided to stop eating. Was there pressure put upon me? 1000%. Was I suggested verbally from my agents? 1000%. And so, again, not blaming them. This is just their ill conditioning that they're passing on because they don't realize it's ill. But I was definitely led astray by them. And so again, I'm not going to say they made me eat a strict diet, but they recommended a strict diet. They recommended a heavy workout routine. I was told some pretty wild advice that, again, I'm not going to get into because it's irrelevant. And I don't really, my goal in this video is not to put light on my agents and the ill advice they gave me. My goal of this video is to, if you're watching this and you need help, to wake up and realize that there's another way to be. So we don't need to focus on what's wrong. Clearly they're ill. Clearly the industry's ill. Clearly eating disorders are wrong. I don't need to go into what all that looks like and what they told me. What I do need to focus on is now. And I'll just say this. If anyone's telling you, recommending to you, or again, I'm not going to use the word making. If anyone's recommending that you eat a certain way, turn on your own prefrontal cortex and ask yourself in your heart, is this sound? Is this healthy? Is this right? And is this loving to me? Let that be your guidance. So I will never again take advice or recommendation from anyone without first processing it through my own brain and deciding, for me, is this right? Because again, a lot of the time, people give you advice and recommendations and they actually think they're helping you. Because from their point of view, they are. From my agent's point of view, they were helping me make money. They were making my career flourish. So I also really have come to this place of compassion, which is, okay, sitting here now, would I take that advice again? Hell no. It's fucking crazy. But I have to understand that from their point of view, they were trying to help, or they were trying to give me what they thought I wanted and what they wanted. And now I want something different, and that's okay. Okay. Are most models starving themselves? I don't like to speak for other people, but I will say a lot of models are struggling very heavily. Again, I will never technically know if they're actually starving themselves because I'm not them, but from what I've observed, there's some darkness going on in everyone's lives in the modeling industry around food, and there's a very polarizing energy when there's food around and there's models around, and it makes the energy very tense. So I would infer yes, but again, I can't say for certain because I'm not them. Did modeling ever make you feel insecure? Yeah. Yes. I don't think there was one moment of my entire existence that I felt secure. Yeah, I felt extremely insecure. And it's crazy now because now I look back at some of those photos and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I thought I looked fat in that. Or I can't believe that like all I was focusing on was like this like little piece of fat, or like, I used to judge myself so much, you guys. I used to carry a measuring tape in my pocket. I'm not even fucking kidding you. I used to carry a measuring tape in my pocket, and every time I went to a bathroom, I would measure my waist and my hips. I was paranoid, absolutely paranoid. I felt insecure 24/7 for over 4 years. And this is another thing I think everyone should know is, I've met a lot of models. Models have the most insecure energy, myself included. I had the most insecure energy, and I'm still working on healing that, right? Being secure in who I am, what I am. But yeah, it's a very, very insecure environment. So yes, modeling made me extremely insecure, extremely self-judgmental, extremely critical. And yeah, that's just my answer to that. When did you realize that the industry can be so toxic, and what caused you to leave it? So I had a lot of intuition that the industry was toxic far before I left it, like I've explained earlier. What caused me to leave it was like this final breaking point of I can't do this anymore. And that happened, I think I mentioned it to you guys, when I went to this retreat this past February, where basically I learned how to meditate, actually, for hours. We would meditate. And I think I just went so deep into my subconscious and pulled out so many traumas and healed them that within a week, I remember coming back to New York City and being like, I can't do this anymore. Nope. All my friends I dropped. All of them. Why? Because they were all models or centered around looks, physical beauty, going out, drinking. And they also had really amazing qualities, so it was very hard for me to do this, but I just knew I had just entered into a true healing phase. And I knew that I was not going to be able to hold the frequency of who I was trying to become if I went back to my old environment, my old friends, my old habits, my old ways. I was still a model, so I already had to deal with that. But the things I could kind of draw boundaries with, I did, because I knew that I would get entrained back into being my old self unless I reformed some things and kept seeing the vision of who I was trying to be, which was happy and healthy and truly radiant and beautiful in a spiritual type of way, not a physical type of way. And so what caused me to leave it was meditating. What caused me to leave it was sitting with my body and watching the thoughts pop up. And just how I said earlier, when someone gives you advice and you question it, do I want that advice? Does that sound advice? Should I take that advice and internalize it and make it mine? That's what I started doing with my own thoughts. All these negative thoughts coming up, and I would look at the thought and I'd say, do I want that thought? Is that thought loving to me? Should I make that a part of who I am? And no, sometimes I'd be like, no, insecurity, I don't want you in my head, and I'd banish it. And then, the next morning I sit down, that same thought comes up, because when you stuff something inside of you for 4 years, these certain energies, they're going to keep coming up. And so it's a lot of self-cleaning with the meditation and just watching my thoughts come up. So what caused me to leave it was continual effort in meditation, non-stop sitting with myself and who I am to figure out who I'm not. And that's ultimately also leads into the next question, which is what gave you the courage to change careers? That's what gave me the courage to change careers, is sitting with myself and really uncovering who I actually am and discarding that which I'm not, which in other terms is called an ego death. A bird just landed up there. Anyways, so yeah, that gave me the courage to change careers. Because like I said earlier in the video as well, you know, I started to realize me being who I really am doesn't make any money in this career. I don't actually want to be doing this. This is someone else's dream. And if not now, when was my major breaking point? If not now, when, Haley? If you're not going to break free now, when? And so I finally pulled the plug one day. And I'll never forget why, too. The day I pulled the plug was my agent contacts me and asks me for a video of me measuring my own body on video to send to her. And I just remember being like, what? You know, I mean, we'd go into the agency and get measured, but like, you want me to send you a video of me measuring my body and then send it to you? So like, here I am in my apartment taking a video of me in a bikini, like measuring myself, like, yeah, 20, this, like, you know, like what? It was just, that was the breaking point where I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is what I do for a fucking living. This is what I do for a career. Who am I helping? Who am I serving? Because another really profound thing that has been on my heart ever since I started healing was this desire to do something meaningful. I'm not changing lives when I am inauthentically in a magazine, you know, like that. Who is that helping? What is that doing? And for me personally, again, this is not a hit to you if you're a model. If it brings you passion and joy and, you know, like that's great. But for me personally, I did not feel like I was helping anyone. I felt like all I was doing was portraying insecurity and making it seem like I was secure. All I was doing was being fake, and it was just not cutting the job anymore. And then that having to do that thing for my agent just really made me realize how fucking stupid it was for me. And again, I don't mean to, those were harsh words, but for me, it just was like, just so like, what am I doing? But if you enjoy modeling, please, by all means, carry on. I don't want to, my goal is not to judge you if you are still a model either. I just want to say that. I think you can spread love and light in any industry, no matter who you are or what you're doing. For me personally, I just felt that I was not spreading any love and light. I was only spreading inauthenticity and insecurity. What would you do differently if you were to start over knowing what you know? What would you do differently if you were to start over knowing what you know? I would not change for anyone. Not one single person. I wouldn't change. I would only change if I want to change authentically, if I'm making the decision. I would analyze the things my agents are telling me before I adopt them as my own. And I would eat more. I would have eaten more. Oh man. Yeah, I went to so many awesome countries and didn't enjoy the food. Like now I think about it, I'm like, damn. I was living in Barcelona, guys, okay? Like fish and seafood haven. I didn't have one piece of, I think I had fish one time because at the time I was very scared of fish because it has a lot of calories, so I was only eating vegetables. Like I lived in like, so yeah, that's what I would mainly do is I'd eat all the good food in all the countries. Okay, how to start if you're already 22 and working a full-time job. So hopefully, how to start. So, I mean, obviously, you know, you can go get an agency and hop online, email agencies, photos. But again, if you haven't gotten into this industry and you're about to, heed with caution. I'm not saying don't do it. Maybe it's your calling, which by all means definitely do it. But don't let them change who you actually are. And they will try. Trust me, they will try. You know, I think a lot of the world tries to change us in many industries. So please, if you're watching this and you ask this question, do not change who you are, because who you are is so beautiful. And someone else's recommendations for you can't make you any more you. It can only take away you from you. It can only separate you from your own divinity, your own source essence. So please, please don't change for anyone. And the best way to start is to reach out to agencies. Okay, and here is the last question. Sorry, we're coming up on an hour here. How do you feel modeling relates to your spiritual views of the world? So, modeling relates to my spiritual views of the world because I truly, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't regret a thing. You know, this was all a part of the path that God chose for me, my higher self chose for me, whatever vernacular you want to use. And it really, truly made me who I am today. Because I think about it, before I was a model, I was super confident, I was super healthy, and I'm now coming back into alignment with those parts of me, right? Confidence and health. But there's a depth there now that wasn't there back when I was innocent. You know, now I really appreciate health on such a deep level. Like you guys can't understand. When I eat now, I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. It sounds crazy, but it's like such a deep gratitude because I know what it's like. I know what the absence of that is like. And it gives the actual act so much more meaning. So I feel modeling relates to my spiritual views of the world because for me, modeling was my ego taking over. And me ending my modeling career was the dissolution of my ego and coming into true unity with God. I think we come into this universe as pure light beings, pure God essence, and then, you know, we get taken over by the Maya, the illusion. And so much of us get lost in the sauce that we don't make it out the other end. But making it out on the other end is so much more evolved than when you first got here. So I feel like I've gone through like a dark chasm and come out. And I see parts of myself that I used to be before modeling, but they're so much deeper and more meaningful and more grateful. And I mean, the amount of presence I experience is like really crazy and really beautiful. And so I really feel modeling relates to my spiritual views of the world, as it kind of serves as the hero's journey. You know, The Alchemist, if you've ever read that, I feel like it was part of my alchemist hero's journey. And I also know that it's going to serve my mission to help and teach what real beauty is to people, you know, who are watching this, to anyone I meet, because truly on a true deep level, I understand that beauty has nothing to do with how you look. It doesn't have to do with your size. It does not have to do with your hair color, your eye color, you know, anything physical. It does not have to do with that. It has everything to do with your heart and how open it is and how loving it is and how perceptive and aware you are of who's in front of you and who you're giving your energy to. Love is equivalent to beauty. Beauty is equivalent to love. Love is not equivalent to external, physical, dense matter that we call hair or eyes or skin. No. And so I think this has really helped me understand that my mission is to help people not only heal from eating disorders and various things, but it's also really been put on my heart to teach people the true meaning of beauty. And the way I teach them is simply by being myself. So, with all that, I'm sorry this was so long. I just felt the need to give you guys the full version. By any means, drop me questions below if you have them. And I really pray that this helps, you know, any girls watching this. And that's all I have to say for now. Goodbye.